Live from the studios overlooking the beautiful city of Rochester, New York, hosting Steeler Nation Live, your hosts, Big Tiz and Big O.
Welcome, fans. Big Tiz and I'm Big O. I don't know if you fans are watching the game, but the Steelers let go of an easy one.
Oh, that was horrible, Big Tiz. I was trying to eat my lunch and watch the game and almost lost it a couple times. But what are you going to say?
Well, one thing I could say was Mike Tomlin said a lot of it. I don't know if you caught the start of the show, how we kind of intertwined that with Mike Tomlin said lack of discipline. And that's what's going on with this team right now. It's a lot of lack of discipline. And the Steelers got to look to get out of that. We have the tools to do it. And, no matter what goes apart. And Tomlin said this a lot himself. He says, no matter what, if somebody goes down, somebody has to fill the shoes, and that's what's going on. We said that many shows that guys have to learn how to fill the shoes of others once they're out, because things happen. You just got to keep the show keep going. So, these guys got to wake up.
That's right. We don't want to call this a rebuilding, and I really hate that because that's what you go out, that's what the draft is for, that's what you have a practice squad for. However, here's a stat for you. 23 out of 53 man roster right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't even on the team last year. So that's also something to think about. Not excuses,
right,
but explanations. Trying to figure out what is going on. And be careful what you wish for, folks. We all wanted that younger, faster defense. We got that. But with that comes other issues, such as inconsistencies, inexperience, and lack of discipline.
Yeah, and you're right. And that's what it is. Especially going along with a lot of these younger guys that's coming in, still trying to learn plays. Still, we usually don't start rookies early for Pittsburgh, but we did. Ryan Shazier and some other rookies that are out there now trying to fill the void. Especially because of injuries and things like that the Steelers have been plagued with within the last 3 to 4 years now. That we are depending on these young guys to step it up, and that lack of discipline is showing his head right now, and the Steelers have to find a way to address it. I don't know if it has to be to the point where it has to be some benchings. I don't know what has to be done, but it has to be remedied right now while they still have a fighting chance, and it's early in the season. I'd rather it happen now than that debacle happen near the end.
Right, we're 2-2, so we're really not that bad, but now we're starting to see a precedence that we have to take care of, and like Tomlin said, that he's going to fix it. I don't know how he's going to fix it as far as the lack of discipline. He's talking about the penalties before the play, like the false starts, the procedures, and also the after plays. We have a lot of unsportsmanship-like conduct penalties, and folks, how I feel about those. I think it's just who the referees are at the time, and not necessarily what you say, because if you watch any NFL game, you see a lot of coaches, a lot of players dropping F-bombs, swearing up and down at the referees, but it looks to me as if we look at a referee wrong, we're going to get that flag.
Exactly. That's what's going on a lot with the Steelers, and we just have to learn to, keep our head about ourselves when we're out there, because these referees seem like they're looking for us to make mistakes or looking for us to do our usual holding penalties. And if you look into some of the stats, we're going to go into more later into the show in depth, but the penalties are what's killing us. Because if we keep on this pace, just like a running back would have 1,000 yards rushing, we might have over 1,500 yards in penalties for the year.
Right, and one big thing about Tomlin is saying about the lack of discipline is that you have to control yourself. Don't give them a reason to throw a flag. You might have every reason to say what you want to say or do what you want to do.
Right.
But you have to control that because they're out there looking for it. And what you touched base a couple seconds ago about filling holes, hopefully the big hole that we were trying to fill with Jarvis Jones going down and Ryan Shazier, a player we all know very well.
Hey, I agree with you totally on that, Big O. But you know what, guys? We're going to get some more info about what's going on in Steeler Nation out there from Joe Laurie. Joe, what is going on with the Steelers? And you know what? Give us a little in on some of the injuries that's happening with the Steelers as well.
Guys, thanks for having me on the great show of Steeler Nation Live. Like I said last week, there are no cakewalks in the NFL, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers proved that with their stunning 27-24 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Second-year quarterback out of NC State, Mike Lennon, throws for over 300 yards and finds Vincent Jackson for the winning 5-yard touchdown with 7 seconds left. After losing by 6 touchdowns the week before, on Thursday night, the Bucs had 9 days to prepare for the Steelers in their in this week's past matchup. A couple things to know for the Steelers. The discipline is awful. When you allow 13 penalties that account for over 120 yards, you're not going to win a lot of football games, and they proved that this past week. They kind of got away with that a little bit against Baltimore. However, you know, when you're playing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team in which you only lose by 3 points, those 120 yards add up. So they have to talk about in practice what they can do to cut back on the penalties. Going to the defense, going back to the defense. I know we've been talking a lot about the defense this past year. The secondary has a lot of holes, and especially with their best cornerback, Ike Taylor, out of the game. You know, the only interception was a Cortez Allen interception in which Mike Evans kind of was limping after a hamstring injury. So that was the only turnover that the secondary created. And because there's no pass rush with the injuries to Jarvis Jones and Ryan Shazier, and then you pick up James Harrison, who just comes off the street, walks in the front doors of the Steelers organization and goes, hey, I'm back here to play in the 3-4 defense run by Dick LeBeau. It's kind of tough to just hop in there. So there is no pass rush to create a rushing, a pass rush to have Glennon kind of force a ball. There was none of that. The secondary is old and slow, like we've been saying for many years with the Steelers now. And this is a total personnel issue. You can't blame Dick LeBeau for the product that's out in the field. He can only do so much with what he has to, with what his team is, is on the field with. So it's all about personnel. You can't blame coaching, but the discipline has got to get better, and the secondary is just, they got to step up and play. The offense for the Steelers is most certainly not the issue. Ben Roethlisberger throws for over 300 yards this past week. Run game still looks solid. And Antonio Brown is quietly becoming one of the best receivers in the NFL. Over 130 yards this past week. Last week against the Panthers, he had over 90 yards with 2 TDs. So he's silently becoming a great fit in that Steelers offense and one of the best receivers in the league. I thought the Steelers lost the game on one play. And I was watching the game and I was sitting there and I remember that punter, Brad Wayne from his LSU days, and how good of a punter he was. And his last punt of the game, he totally shanked it. An absolute shank, which led to the Lewis Murphy 47-yard crossing route right down the middle that leads to that Vincent Jackson touchdown. And you don't want to blame it on one play, but a lot of that has to do with poor special. Excuse me. Season is not lost, however. There's still 2-2. Still a lot of time to make up. You play the AFC South, in which you got Tennessee and Houston, who I'm not sold on yet. And this week is Jacksonville. Jacksonville, going into this game, has done really well in the first half scoring. The games that stand out to me this past week against San Diego, they actually had the lead in the first quarter and going into the second quarter. And also the game against Philly, in which they held a great lead going into the first half, and then Philly just kind of turned on the Jets and blew them out in the second half. Jacksonville has some decent playmakers on offense. Rookie quarterback Blake Bortles has some options that he can work with. Little skeptical on their offensive line. Don't really protect Bortles well. I think running backs Toby Gerhart and Denard Robinson are really guys that you have to watch out for. Good playmakers, good change of pace guys. Allen Robinson is another guy, wide receiver, who you got to watch out for. Rookie out of Penn State, who actually I thought the Steelers should have selected in the draft this past year. And also Allen Hurns, the guy who week 1, everybody kind of slept on him at the start of the season, and he produced pretty big week 1 against Philly. So guys, as you know, I'm not wearing a suit, a collared shirt and tie this week, and I got my Bearcats collared shirt on, and that is to mourn the loss of a walk-on running back, Shimoda Kennedy. I didn't know the kid personally, but this is the second time in 2 years that the Bearcats have lost a member of their football team to a driving accident. So if you're watching, pay attention to the road. Kid's too young to be dead, and unfortunately, it's a very bad situation. So prayers go out to his family, and guys, back to you in the studio. Thank you.
Well, that was Joe Laurie from the studio. Big Tiz, before we go on with what Joe talked about as far as Antonio Brown, the penalties and whatnot, we want to give our condolences out to the family of Cincinnati Bearcat football player Shimoda Kennedy Palomore. Passed away last week. Great football player for the Cincinnati Bearcat organization. Here at Steeler Nation Live, we want to send out our heartfelt condolences to the family, the Palomore family, and the Cincinnati University's the Bearcat football program, and all the students involved who knew this young player.
Yeah, it's a sad thing to see, especially a young guy like that, trying to be at the cusp of, getting into a new career and things like that, just for something like this to happen. Yes, that definitely goes out to us from Steeler Nation Live. So, much blessings to you and your family as well. But a lot of other things with the Steelers going on, which Joe touched base on, especially with the injuries or whatever.
And the penalties, not to mention the penalties.
Right.
That it's when you start getting in that rut with the penalties. And right now, the Steelers are penalized. Unbelievable. We're averaging right now for the year as far as penalties right there, Big Tiz. For first 4 games, 44 penalties, totaling 387 yards, which is about 97 yards per game in penalties that we're just giving away. Just giving away.
Yeah, like I said, that's a good way, just like Tomlin always alludes to, a good way to keep yourself in close games with teams that you should be blowing out. And that's exactly what happened in this game against the Tampa Bay Bucs.
Right, and also, Joe touched base on Antonio Brown becoming the wide receiver that we knew he was going to be when we signed him. And we haven't really kept too much track on Mike Wallace down in Miami, but he had a pretty decent game against the Raiders. But still, compared to stats, we did the right thing. Antonio Brown is the future of the Steelers.
Right.
And as long as I'm on that roll, Big Tiz, I think one of the big problems with the defense is the defense is relying too heavily on Ben Roethlisberger to pull him out of bad times.
That's true. And like I said, these are the things that the defense has to learn to stand alone, just like they used to do back in the day, where our defense used to be so dominant. These guys have to sit there and say, you know what? Ben can't always do it for us. We got young guys in there, but these guys have to learn quick and get this discipline down. And these things, stay in your route, stay in your lanes, whatever it takes that they need to, even like I said earlier in the show, benchings, whatever. These guys got to wake up right now. Right now, to be honest, it's early in the season, but it's a turning point. And you got some other teams coming down the list, as you see later in the show, like the Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns and things like that. Those aren't gimme games anymore for the Steelers.
No.
To me, though, they're getting to the point to where if they keep going down this road, these are almost like playoff games.
Oh, absolutely. And I know it sounds silly. The game 5 of the season, we're playing the winless Jaguars. And I said it before last season, the game against the Jets.
Right.
That was our season. This is our season. Folks, I know it sounds like we're panicking. I know we're hitting the panic button. It seems like it, but it's not. Because after the loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now we're going back down south to Jacksonville, playing an 0-4 team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are giving up an average of almost 38 points a game. They're 0-4, and we'll talk about that later in the pregame against the Jaguars. But going down there, it's not a cakewalk, and this is the game. You need this game to build your confidence. I know it sounds silly, but this is the game that we need to beat up on these Jaguars. You have to. It's not necessarily a must-win, because a must-win means if you win by a field goal or 1 point, it's in the win column. Yes, to keep your momentum going. But this game is a must-win in a sense that we have to pound these guys. We have to show the league, and not necessarily just the league, but the Steelers, the team itself, that this is what Steelers football is all about. We need to pound these guys. We need to punish them. We need to run up the score to build that confidence, Big Tiz.
Yeah, and the Steelers are due for a game like that. But, the Steelers have to take each game by game. And with the injuries that the Steelers have, just coming out of this game, Ben injures his throwing hand, making a pass attempt. Will it keep him out of the next game against the Jaguars? No, I doubt it. But these are things like this that are, still looming for the Steelers. And who are some of the other injuries?
Well, to keep on talking about Ben and his injuries, I still think that there's some underlying injuries from the first hit he took against the Ravens, because Ben is not as inaccurate as he is.
Right.
Now, the catches that Brown has been making, and Justin Brown and Marcus Wheaton, if you go back and look at these highlight films, they are what they are, highlight films. Why? Because these guys are going above and beyond catching these balls that Ben's throwing. Anybody else, they're incompletions.
Right.
So I think that there's an underlying injury to Ben, because he was listed last game as probable, which leads me to believe that there's something going on that the Steelers head office isn't bringing out to the public. But as long as he's starting, I guess that's good. Now, Ryan Shazier, still out.
Right.
Now, thank God it's just a light sprain to the MCL. But that's such a delicate, intricate part of the knee that you really can't take that for granted. You can't rush that back in. So, and on top of that, Jarvis Jones, still out with the wrist, had the wrist surgery. It almost looked season ending, but I think with rehabilitation and the proper care, I think we'll see Shazier probably in week 7, maybe week 8. Two players we don't want to rush. Ike Taylor, you know he's out for a while. He broke his arm. You know, that's pretty much 8 weeks.
Right.
And said and done. I mean, so to alleviate that, some pressure on the defense, we recently signed
James Harrison.
10-year veteran of the Pittsburgh Steelers, left the Steelers, joined the Bengals, left the Bengals, wanted to get reunited with his family, do more things, but he knew that the Steelers, when they made that call, and this is the kind of person that James Harrison is, because we did the show, we explained why he was retiring, and it was heartfelt. He wanted more time with his family.
Right.
He wanted to do more things with his kids, schooling, sporting events, with his family. But he also knew how bad the Steelers really needed him.
Well, you know what? I don't know if anybody caught it, I don't know if it was Facebook or something, but I actually did see a video where Harrison, he asked his kids, he said, what do you think about Daddy going back to go play football? So this was a guy who was just sitting out there, asking his kids what they think. And the kids were like, oh, Daddy, go play. So that shows that this guy, he wants to get they're kids anyway, but he wants to get the blessing of his family before he steps back out and puts the pads on. We're showing that this guy is trying to put his family first, but you got to give much kudos to James Harrison. He's always been a class act. No matter what you think about him on the field or how you do this or how you do that, this guy's went out in class from Pittsburgh, and he went out in class when he was with the Bengals. So, this guy is a much, much needed asset. So I think he'll add a lot of stability, especially on a team that's very, very injury prone and very young. So he could be a stable force for the Steelers right now coming down the stretch. So let's hope that this pans out.
That's true. And there's no talk about money, which means that he's doing it for the heart and doing it for the city of Pittsburgh and the fans, trying to help. Now, does he have an S on his chest? Does he wear a cape? Does he fly? Does he shoot a web? No. He's a superhero to a point. That 102 interception return for a touchdown in the Super Bowl, that's superhero quality. But what he's doing, in a lot of people out there, folks, you can't be confused with thinking that just because Harrison is going to come in, he's going to be this I don't know, give me some words there, Big Tiz.
Savior.
I really don't think he's going to be a savior per se. However, but his mentorship, his being there, being a Steeler for so many years and knowing how the Steelers operate, he's going to be an intricate part. Is he going to win every game because are the Steelers going to win every game because he's back? No. They showed it the other day. We have to get him back in slowly, baby steps. But I'll tell you what, is he going to help this team in the future? Absolutely. I believe he will.
Most definitely. Hey, guys, you know what? We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go over the game stats, dismal as they might be, against the Tampa Bay Bucs. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Uniform Express, located on 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, for your police, fire, or EMS supplies. One of Rochester's top and finest suppliers of shirts, pants, shoes, boots, and accessories for your professional uniform needs. Uniform Express also does embroidery and screen print for team uniforms, jerseys, and corporations. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also go to their website at www.uniformexpress.com or call Brian at 585-529-4245. That's 585-529-4245. And let Brian know you heard his ad on our show, Steeler Nation Live.
And Big Tiz.
And I Big O.
You know what, guys? We're going to do it right now. A lot of you don't want to know about it, but let's just touch base on the game stats for the Steelers versus the Bucs.
Oh, you had to bring it up, Big Tiz. But you know what? If you look at the game stats, the way it really wasn't that bad of a game statistically wise.
Right.
But the play on the field, you take away those penalties, Big Tiz, we win it. It's a close one. But these are the games that shouldn't even be close.
Exactly, and that's what we were talking about, with the Jags. Teams that you should blow out, you got to blow them out because you got to send that statement to the next team that's coming in. And that's what the Steelers had to do. But in this game, an 0-3 Tampa Bay Bucs came into town. And you know what? If you look at our show before, we said that Tampa Bay would come in and that they would be game.
They have nothing to lose.
Right.
Nothing to lose, Big Tiz. Nothing to lose, everything to gain, in which they did. Now, when you come into Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, the Steelers usually get the ball because they want to score first.
Right.
That's, you really don't want to defer. You want to put some points on the board. But when you start turning the ball over, they had 10 points before we did, and they had like 14 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
So it boggles the mind already, and we're seeing, resemblances of last year, the playing catch up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there's a lot of time left in the game, but is this how you want to start out? You want to start out 10-0 against them. You want that crowd in the game. And Tiz, I got to tell you, they took the crowd right out of the game, first 5 minutes of the game.
Well, the Steelers, like you said, the Steelers have to set a precedent, and they have to go out. Now, in this game, because of the penalties, it kind of take away some of the good things the Steelers did in this game. First downs for the Steelers, they had 27 first downs to 21 for the Bucs. That means the Steelers were moving the ball, but as you can see, penalties back this up. We try to make a little edge and then back us right back up. Total yards for the Steelers, 390 to 350 for the Bucs. The Steelers were moving the ball. Here's the big one. Here's the big circle on your enchilada. Penalties. 13 penalties for 125 yards. Those are rushing numbers.
Actually, they are. They're pretty good rushing numbers. But in the sense of penalty, you just think of all the plays that came back, all the first downs that the Steelers could have had, possible, areas where you can score in the red zone, out of field goal range. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But there were also a lot of penalties that were not called.
Exactly.
I think there were more non-call penalties than they were bad call penalties against the Steelers. And the touchdown we talked briefly before the show.
Antonio Brown, in the end zone, he got away with a push when he scored a touchdown. That could have easily have been another penalty, which would have brought this up to over 130 yards.
I was shocked that it wasn't called.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Those mental errors, those things the Steelers have to work hard at getting rid of. And you can see in Thomas' face during the post-game interviews, he was livid.
He was livid.
I could see it searing in him.
Yeah, and I think it was legitimate. I don't think he was saying what he was saying because it was sounding like that's what people wanted to hear to try and save his job if there was any inclination that his job may be in jeopardy, which we haven't heard anything from. But this is sound like not only was a coach, he sounded like a fan.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like, you know what, enough is enough. And even Troy Polamalu, as calm and cool as is, he even lost his cool and got a penalty midway through the game. And granted, enough is enough. You get frustrated, but you're the captain out there. You're the leader. Now, when you got these young guys seeing, hey, the captain's losing his cool, that's Troy Polamalu. He's praying every play, but now he's screaming and yelling.
Yeah,
it's not a good fit.
Maybe that's something that hopefully the guys on that team need to see their captain losing it because of the play, because of the penalties, and maybe that's something that somebody who usually doesn't get penalties picks up. So hopefully things start to set. But as for the Bucs had 9 penalties though, but 9 for 50 yards. So that means there were like little chintzy penalties, but we were picking up chunks of yards and penalties.
Big chunks of yards.
And turnovers for the Steelers. We got another turnover, which was good, but we also gave one away early in the game. And time of possession for the Steelers, 34 minutes and 15 seconds compared to 25 minutes and 45 seconds for the Bucs.
Now, when you see that, Big Tiz, you think this team won. They controlled the ball. They had the ball. The opponent's offense was off the field. They didn't have time to score. But that wasn't the case in this game. It wasn't.
And that wasn't, just like you said, because of the penalty setting us back. And we're controlling the game, but then we're also killing ourselves with the penalties. And
and I'm going to keep on saying this every show, Big Tiz, because not only do I love to hear myself talk, but when I'm right, I love to hear myself talk when I'm right. Now, I've mentioned before, 4th down, you got to do some more quarterback sneaks.
Yeah.
So far, folks, I'm 2 for 2 on this. And also, I talked to Steelers need to integrate more specialty plays, more flash and dash plays. With that, I don't even know what they call that. The pass to Antonio Brown, he passed it back. Come on, we have to do more stuff like that. The hurry up offense. I just get very frustrated when I watch these games when you have something that's clicking and they switch channels and they move something else.
Yeah, I mean it is hard to see that. Go with what's working. That's what the Steelers have to. Now in this game, the Steelers put up some huge numbers, like we said. Roethlisberger, 30-41, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns. Decent day. Antonio Brown, he had 1 pass for 17 yards, 1-on-1. So, good completion standards. Antonio Brown, 100%.
Yeah, but if you saw that pass, that was you might question his masculinity on that throw. I don't know if he decided you want to throw left-handed because it felt good that day, but I got to tell you, it looked like a punt. I mean, you got to put a little more zip on that ball. I know you're a receiver, buddy, but I think you can throw a football.
Hey, however it gets completed, right?
It was completed.
And running back, Le'Veon Bell, 19 carries for 63 yards. Decent day. I mean, for knowing that the Tampa Bay Bucs was committed to stopping the run. So they had everybody up against the line of scrimmage. So
not to mention his running, but his carries, but also his passes out of the backfield too. And what shocked me, that the way the Bucs were blitzing on all the plays and getting so much pressure on Roethlisberger, I thought that they might have infused Dre Archer a little bit more, if anything, or dumping, just the dink and dunk, getting back, to release some of that pressure, so that way Ben could go back in the pocket and do what he can and hit these receivers without just throwing the ball and expecting, acrobatic catches.
As a hint for you guys, for your Steeler fans, and for Steelers, dink and dunk. Pull those linebackers back. And I'm saying this as a Steeler lover, a Steeler fan as well. The fact that those dink and dunk passes, what you started doing later in the year, last year, those always made those linebackers drop back. So, let's not go away from something that was working, especially when you know that they're up in the box.
I think you came up with that terminology, dink and dunk. I think you did.
I hope so.
I think you did. I think you need to patent it because everybody's talking about it now.
Somebody will.
Other teams talking about it. Yeah, we can't dink and dunk. In fact, I think you're right on that too. Dunkin' Donuts was brought into there, but we are not plugging Dunkin' Donuts, even though it's delicious, warm coffee. Have a Dunkin' It's that time of the year. Get your pumpkin spice and your pumpkin donuts at your local Dunkin' Donuts because everybody's planning on Dunkin'.
Exactly. Blunt was he wasn't running on Dunkin'. Blunt had 4 carries for 25 yards. But I mean, those were like fill-in carries, which he did decent on. So, I'm not knocking this guy at all. Bob Brown, 7 catches, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Another decent day from this guy, as you alluded to earlier. This guy is a force for his size. We let go of the right receiver and we kept the one we needed to. And this guy is it. He's all world, this guy.
But also, we can't, go past the fact that early in the game, which Tomlin, talked about, that these drop balls, wide open receivers, it really didn't come into play because it was so early in the game. But I have to disagree with Coach Tomlin on that. I mean, when you're trying to get the momentum and you're throwing the ball down the field, you're missing first downs, you're missing yardage. I think every catch right now, every pass is crucial to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That if the ball is thrown to you, you need to catch it, no matter what it is, 2 or 20 yards down the field. If it's 2 seconds into the game or 2 seconds left to go in the game, every play is crucial.
Heath Miller, 10 catches, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. Decent day. Like I said, those short passes, they open up things in the middle and make everybody drop back, and that's a good example of it. The Steelers on defense, 1 sack from the Steelers defense. Granted, it was heavy pressure all day, but we got 1 sack out of it. And we also came up with 1 interception by Cortez Allen, which was a nice pick, but the receiver, let's be honest, he ran the wrong route, and it was an easy pick for him. But those things happen, and we did not too much with the ball.
Well, I don't know necessarily easy pick. These days, anything is not easy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's, like I said earlier, because we're 2-2, something to work on. Should we be 3-1? I feel we should be 4-0. However, that 1 game to the Ravens, it's just, we should be 3-1 right now.
Exactly.
And the Bucs, they really didn't have that bad of a day. Glennon coming in for the injured Josh McCown came in. He came up with 21 for 43 for 287 yards in the air, 2 TDs, and he did have that 1 interception. Martin on the ground, only 40 yards rushing. He did, however, had that 1 TD that should not have been a TD.
Right.
They would have missed the holding penalty. Evans, 4 for 65, 1 TD, and that touchdown in the end zone would just kill her.
Yeah.
Kill her.
And they actually had Jackson, too. Good receiver for the Tampa Bay Bucs. 3 catches for 32 yards, 1 touchdown. And a lot of the catches were these guys, which I seen late in the game, where guys were just all of a sudden running free in the secondary. And I'm like, what is going on?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Is it time for Dick LeBeau to go? I mean, can you only? I mean, is there something new out of his bag of tricks that he come out and I'm not trying to say save the season. However, I mean, you're 2-2, not bad, but the way we're going, we're not going up, we're going down.
Exactly.
So we need to do something different. I know.
Well, let's look at the Bucs on defense. The Bucs actually, they had a good day on defense. 5 sacks, which against the Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, that's a lot of sacks. But is it? Because that's Ben's game, the way he plays his game. You know, he'll scramble around, he'll hold on the ball sometimes a little longer than he should. You know, it's basically kind of live or die with it. Because if he makes a good play, we're all applauding. If he gets sacked, why didn't you throw the ball?
Right.
So you got to live with that. And the defense, they also had 2 fumbles. 2 fumble recoveries for the Bucs. So, like I said, the Steelers have to hold on to the ball. Every down is crucial. Every catch is crucial. And these numbers right here show that for the Steelers. And I hope he plays that game feel for these guys over and over and over. You know, it's getting to the point that he might have a lot of game fill to play for these guys. You know, even going back to the Cleveland Brown game. You have to hold. These turnovers have to stop, and these penalties have to stop. And speaking of that, of the bleeding having to stop, a lot of the Steelers fans are still up in arms over this game against the Tampa Bay Bucs. It was basically all over ESPN. They call it a stunner.
Yeah.
You know, because the Steelers were picked in a lot of leagues, a lot of last man standing leagues, or whatever you play. The Steelers were picked to win this game against the Bucs. So there are a lot of guys that's out.
So let me ask you this: what do you think was the bigger upset of the past Sunday? Was it the Steelers losing to the Bucs or the Saints losing to the Cowboys? Now, before the Saints game, there's a syndicated sports reporter out there who named the Steelers. I'm not going to name his name. You know who you are. He said that the Pittsburgh Steelers were the Cowboys of the AFC. But after the way the Cowboys played against the Saints, I would take that as a compliment. However, by that being said, I think that's not nice. Knowing how I feel about the Cowboys and pretty much every Steeler fan out there, being called the Cowboys of the AFC.
Well, Big O, seeing how fired up you are, we're going to go to our segment on the show that's called Steeler Fans Sound Off, where Steeler fans called into our websites. They left information there, and you can do it as well. And what they do is they call in and they talk about, one of the questions that was asked was, how do people feel about Harrison coming back to Pittsburgh? And we got their thoughts on that. And also, we just wanted to get their feeling on this last game that just happened against the Tampa Bay Bucs. So check it out here on Steeler Nation Live.
On Steeler Fans Sound Off.
Jason from Dover, Delaware. This is my opinion on today's game with the Steelers playing Tampa today. Stunned and disappointed. When you have a bad team like Tampa is, when you keep them around, these things are bound to happen. The Steelers had an opportunity to put them away, and they didn't do it. As a result of having James Harrison back, yeah, they did get a little older on the D now, but I think it was well worth it. And just with a few days of him practicing, I think he did a solid job. And they're going to continue to need him throughout the year down the stretch. That's it.
Hey, this is Scott from Rochester. Glad to see James Harrison back in the black and gold. Even though today's game really disappointed me, first quarter disappointed me, and obviously the last 5 minutes did. But it's just another game, and hopefully the Steelers will pull it out of their butt and continue to make it to the playoffs. Thank you, and black and gold. Hi, this is Tyler from Norfolk, Virginia, and I want to talk about James Harrison, what I think he can do and bring to the team. I'm glad the Steelers signed him because I think he's going to be an asset to the defense, and him being a veteran, he can help out the younger players like Ryan Shazier and help teach them, bring them up, and become the player that he was for the Steelers. Now, today was a very tough loss. I think there's a lot of stupid penalties, ones that they could have avoided, like the excessive celebration, taunting, and holdings and stuff. That's all easy football and should be avoided. I think that's what killed us today for the football. I remember at one point there was 115 penalty yards, and that just wrecked us. The run game looked very well today. Roethlisberger looked well, even though he got hurt a couple times, but he always came back like the Roethlisberger that he is. And the other thing that killed us was drop passes. I remember flea flicker from Le'Veon Bell, and then the pass to Antonio Brown went right through his fingers. That should have been a cover ball. Would have been, 65, 70-yard catch. Would have put him in the red zone. And those are the things that I think that killed the Steelers today.
Good evening, Steeler Nation Live sports fans out there. This is Big O with your future weather forecast for next Sunday, October 5th, down at Jacksonville, Florida, where the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Jaguars will meet head-to-head. Hey, it's going to be a hot, sunny day. Nothing but sunshine, high 75 with a low 51 degrees. Since it's going to be a 1 o'clock game, it's going to be perfect weather for football. So this is Big O for Steeler Nation Live with your future weather forecast. Check us out.
Yeah, I had to say it was a stunt, man. It is a stunt.
Welcome back to Steeler Nation Live. I'm Big O.
I'm Big Tiz.
And Big Tiz, this is the time where we're going to pregame the Jacksonville Jaguars next Sunday down there in Florida. So it looks like a great matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, right now, at this point, the way the Steelers are playing, I believe anybody in the league is a good matchup. So the thing the Steelers have to be wary of, here's another game, almost a microcosm of the Tampa Bay Bucs game. A team coming in, floundering, not knowing A, B, C, D, but then when they come up against us, because I don't know if, like Tomlin said it, he made a statement, that's what the show should be called, lack of discipline. Because of lack of discipline, staying in the lanes, making tackles, holding on to tackles, a game like this it's not a safe game.
Right. And I believe that whoever set up the game plan for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they knew what they had to do to get under the skin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it worked. And there was many plays, and if you watch the game, you understand what I'm talking about. Those late pushes after a hit, those cheap little shots, they get under the skin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it's on offense or defense. Do a little talk, do a little shoving, do a little, trying to get in their heads, and it worked. And I hope that the Steelers learn this, look at the game film, and see that this is what the other teams are going to try and do now to get under their skin to create these penalties after the before penalties. So the guys are moving on the line, getting in a position where they look like they're holding or talking trash after the play, so the Steelers are going to retaliate. It's all like hockey. Exactly. I don't know, if you watch hockey, you get a shot in the face, you hit the guy back, and guess what? 99% of the time, your retaliation is going to cost you a penalty and get you in the box. And that's what's happening with the Steelers right now.
Well, to be honest, for this game, if I was a coach for the Tampa Bay, almost the same team, I would watch a blueprint of this game with the Tampa Bay Bucs did against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh. I would watch that tape, and I would follow it.
Absolutely. Pressure. Try to get to Roethlisberger as quick as you can, because it doesn't seem like the offense is counterattacking that. And we always talk about it every show, every year we talk about when you have a defense that wants to put pressure on Roethlisberger to try and get him in the sack, that's when you have to do the dink and dunk, the screen pass. And now we got a guy like Dre Archer who can just run down the field. Also, Le'Veon Bell, who can also catch out of the backfield. The Garrett Blunt, not too good out of the backfield catching. However, but you got Le'Veon Bell and Dre Archer now. That now you can utilize these guys and get Heath Miller back into the thing too. 3 yards, 4 yards is better than a sack.
Exactly. Especially against teams when you know the crowd on the line of scrimmage. That game plan should tell you Heath Miller should be your leading tight end or your leading receiver for that game. To be honest, because eventually they're going to have to switch out of that defense because they're getting killed so bad by the short passes.
Right, absolutely. And going into the game, the Jaguars are 0-4, and they are giving up an average. Their defense is giving up an average of 38 points a game. And I'll go over the scores. First game against the Eagles, 34-17, loss. Redskins, 41-10, loss. Colts, 44-17, loss. And the Chargers, 33-14. So we have the tools to put up these numbers against teams like that. But you have to do it in a way where they're not taking advantage of your weaknesses by just pressure, and not countering it.
Exactly. And like I said, the Jags, they're not a pushover squad. They do have some good tools to work with, especially with the young quarterback in Blake Bortles. Granted, he's a rookie, he's a young guy, but the guy has a lot of tools to work with. And Pittsburgh is notorious for, giving these scramblers little yards, and these little yards add up when it's late in the game, when it's a tight game.
So, absolutely, and also those penalties too.
Exactly. And if one thing you want to keep a team in a game who shouldn't be there, just like we did against Tampa Bay Bucs, is with penalties.
Right. That's what we have to get away from, just doing our job and not focusing so much on the penalties. Get your game plan and work off the game plan, and it's got to be nothing too nothing too huge or difficult. It's all about counterattack. Like when they blitz, you do short screen passes. They don't blitz, you run the ball. Hurry up offense, more trick plays. And I think once Ben gets in his groove, the offense gets in their groove with the no-huddle offense, you have more opportunities. You have guys, the offense gets tired,
right?
But the defense gets tired as well.
Right. Well, if you look at the defense for the Jags, which should be a game where the Steelers have tons of yardage in this game, should be. It should be. But the defense for the Jags, they only have 2 sacks for the year. And that, going back into last year for the Steelers, we were kind of at that point last year.
Right.
Now it seems to be kind of gelling and it's coming slowly, but this game is a must game. You have to go into this game like the Jags are 4-0. As far as I'm concerned, this is a 4-0 team, a dominant 4-0 team, and that's how the Steelers have to look at it.
Right now, they don't necessarily have that good of a potential running game, but it's there with Toby Gerhart coming from the Vikings. He's their number 1 running back. He could be a number 1 running back on any team except the Steelers and the Vikings because of Adrian Peterson. It's too bad the Peterson incident didn't happen last year because he'd be making a lot of money there in Minnesota.
Right.
But also, don't sell the wide receivers short, like Cecil Shorts, and Alan Hearns is up and becoming wide receiver. These guys can run routes. These guys can catch. But like Bortles, rookie quarterback. And we all know that Dick LeBeau's record against rookie quarterbacks, I believe, 16-2 or 16-1. It's a great record regardless of what it is. And I think Dick LeBeau is going to have to go back to some kind of schemes to rattle this young quarterback so that we don't have big games by Cecil Shorts and Alan Hearns. great receivers, great route runners, can catch the ball. They get behind you. It's a touchdown.
Exactly. So, Big O, what are you looking at for a score in this game against the Jags? Pittsburgh going down to Florida.
All right, you're probably gonna think I'm crazy, but I think it's going to be conservative in the first half, and I think the Steelers are going to exploit the defense later. I think it's going to be 27-17 Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be 2017 till late in the game, and Pittsburgh's going to score that one touchdown to put the game out of reach. And I do predict 3 turnovers. Pittsburgh will get 2 fumbles and an interception that game.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb saying finally we get a game where the Steelers make a statement. Granted, it's against the Jags, but the Jags right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're 4-0 the way we're playing. So I'm going to say the Steelers are going to make a statement going there, especially after the lashing they're going to get this week. I'll say 34-10.
34-10 Steelers? Yep. I'm writing it down. And like we talked about earlier, this is the game that is going to make the season. This is it. This is a team that we need to go down there in their home stadium, pound them. I almost lost it. Pound them, okay, and show them why we're the Steelers and why they are an 0-14. Let them worry about what they did wrong, whatnot. This is the game where we need. Should we win this game? Absolutely.
Right.
Should we win it big? You're darn right. Will we win big? Probably not. But this is the game where we're going to show our team what we have, and if we have the potential to win a 7th Lombardi Trophy.
Also, what I just thought of, the Steelers have to be very worried about this, but the fact is that the Jaguars, actually, when they went down to Philly for their first game, the Jaguars were leading in this game a majority of the first half. Right. I mean, to where I believe it was a 2-touchdown lead at one point.
Right, and we cannot fall into that. We cannot play catch up like we did last year. When we're ahead, Cleveland Brown game, perfect example. They came back and almost beat us.
Right.
You got to play 60 minutes, and we have to be in the lead.
Exactly.
We cannot play catch up. We cannot, because it proved last game that we had the capabilities of coming back, but we don't have the capabilities of overcoming certain instances like penalties and penalties.
Well, guys, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to give you guys our final thoughts for the night. Next up on Still a Nation Live.
McGinney's Sports Pub, 2246 East River Road, Rochester, New York. Open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday noon till midnight. McGinney's is a sports pub featuring fine lunch and dinner. Whether from the menu or the chef's daily specials, there's always something great to eat until 11 p.m. McGinney's also has a full line of your favorite beverages with daily drink specials sure to quench your thirst and not your wallet. With 2 floors of seating, 20 HD TVs, there's never a bad seat to watch your favorite game. Happy hours from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and home of the Chicken Wing Challenge every Thursday night. McGinney's also offers full catering as well, so come on down and check us out. We would sure love to meet you. So go online to www.mcguinness.com and check out their full menu.
Welcome back, fans. Big Tiz.
And I'm Big O here at Rochester, New York, Steeler Nation Live.
Guys, you know what? We're going to give you our final thoughts for the night, and I'm going to start out first. You know what? There's a lot of things going on with the Steelers, and the Steelers have to remain focused, and they have to make sure that these younger guys get that discipline together, and this team as a whole has to have discipline. You know, the little mistakes, the penalties, those things have to stop. If the Steelers can remedy those penalties, keep their mind focused on the things that they have and the team that they have in front of them, not looking at a team's record, the Steelers can win. They have the tools to do it, and they have to get back to that old grind of running the ball, and everybody has to be on the same page. Mike Tomlin as well. I believe the Steelers can get it together, and I think that they will get it together. But just like Mike Tomlin said at the beginning of the show, discipline, lack of discipline, and it has to stop now. If the Steelers address those situations, these penalties, I believe the Steelers can go ahead and win games, and it can be successful. So from Big Tiz to Steeler Nation Live, Steelers, Let's get it together.
You said it perfect, Big Tiz. And I'm not gonna duplicate what you said as far as the penalties. Just maintain composure. Do what you have to do to get the plays done on offense. Don't rely on Ben to save your ace. Okay? Defense has a job to do out there too. You can score touchdowns. You can score points just as well as offense. Get a game plan. Hurry up offense. Run the ball because we proved we can do it. And that opens up the area for Brown, for Justin Brown, Heath Miller, Lance Moore, who got in some action last game, and all the receivers out there. Marcus Wheaton, up and becoming. Great receiver, great hands, made some amazing catches against the Bucs. But that's what we need to do. Get on our game plan. Don't play catch up. Take the early lead. Smash them in their mouth like Steeler football is all about, and get the job done. Don't worry about the refs making bad calls. You shouldn't have to rely on the refs to win the game for you. You need to do it yourself. You need to be out there, and you need to have the lead big enough so if these refs do try to mess with you, that you can overcome this stuff. You shouldn't have to let the referees, even though there's a lot of bad calls, no calls, Big Tiz. But we're not going to cry about it anymore. That's done. That's over. Let's focus on the Jaguars next week. Also, go down to McGinney's, East River Road, Henrietta, Rochester, New York. Big Tiz, I am hungry, and I can't stop thinking about McGinney's. The chicken wings, those beer specials, those hamburgers, loaded potato skins. I'm talking about bar food, chicken fingers. And if you want to sit down away from the bar, all the TV screens and watch your sporting events there at McGinney's, you can go sit in the, what do you call that place? Where everybody else sits down at the tables. Go there, have a nice, delicious dinner, some chicken parm, some whatever you got there. Sal will set you up McGinney's, Rochester, New York, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers Football Fan Club, and our main sponsor here at Steeler Nation Live.
And also, let's not forget, Otto Tomato.
Oh my goodness, Otto Tomatoes. If you haven't found out, folks, we're having contests. We have gift cards to give out. Send us a pic, a Steeler pic. If you send us your pic, your selfie, and we put up on the show, you'll get a gift card for Otto Tomatoes to go there, check out their delicious food. Low-key atmosphere, but great food. Delish.
Exactly. And guys, before we go as well, I want to remind you guys that once we get your pick, if you allow us, we're going to put you on our wall back here. You know, as you can see on our wall, we'll have your picture there. Give us your bio, and we'll read it online, and we'll do a lot of things with it, you know, with your permission. And like I said, we'll have it up there. So guys, if you want to be seen, send it in. Send it in to BigTiz@SteelerNationLive.net. We'll take
Know
care
what
of
it
the rest.
is, man. Steeler
So
Nation,
from Big
man.
Tiz,
Not Big O.
another show in the books here on Steeler
Saturday night
Nation
and
Live.
Monday night, man.
See you next week.
7 to 8 on Monday nights. Big Tiz. And this is Stump. And this is Steeler Nation. Big Tiz. Big O.